This is what you see on the Portland Streetcar logo. Because yes, I'm going to be talking about the Portland Streetcar today for the first time, really. You can see the Portland Streetcar here. I'm sure Portlanders who at least know this fact are proud of it. Hopefully. But Portland was very revolutionary with the streetcars for three reasons. Number one, we were the first in the U.S. and possibly North America. We were the first transit agency ever to build a streetcar system since World War II. Using modern vehicles, modern routes, stuff like that. It opened in 2001, at least from 10th and Clay up to 23rd and Marshall. Number two, we were the first transit agency to get U.S.-built streetcars, at least later on. Starting at vehicle number 15, which they don't really run. It was a prototype vehicle, so more realistically, starting at vehicle number 21, those were made by United Streetcar, and those were entering service throughout 2012 to 14. And we were the first ever transit agency to get U.S.-built streetcars. Before then, we were getting Skoda streetcars from the Czech Republic, which are fine. They're very similar to the United Streetcar, but other transit agencies have done that. Number three, we also have the most expanded modern streetcar system in the U.S. with this many miles of track. I can never remember how many miles long the streetcar lines are, and 2.5 lines. Yeah, it looks like there's 3 lines. There's 3 colors. But really the A loop and B loop are the exact same thing. It's just the A loop travels clockwise and the B loop travels counterclockwise. Doesn't really matter. I have several plans but for how I would extend the Portland Streetcar. But before we get to those, let's talk about, not today's sponsor because I don't have one, but let's talk about the existing plans. So right now, it is currently being planned to expand the streetcar up this way, up 18th and 19th Avenues, I believe, and down Thurman Street to the Montgomery Park building and to the Montgomery Park industrial area, because that area is rapidly growing and there's not very many transit services up in that area. There are, but line 15, to my knowledge, is the only frequent service line that actually serves that area. And it doesn't really connect with the streetcar. It actually does. It serves the 23rd and Marshall, but it's still quite far away from the river or anything else like that. So that's being planned. Another thing being planned, that looks like it's a little bit further off, is the Hollywood District extension. So it would continue down Broadway and Weidler Streets, except that Weidler ends and just turns into Broadway, and Broadway becomes a two-way at that point, down to the Hollywood District and connecting to the Hollywood Town Center or Hollywood Transit Center, where the MAX is, and buses are. But we'll call those lines MP and HD. Why? Portland Streetcar has always lettered their lines 2 letters. Always. Always. Don't believe me? Here is a map that is not mine. I don't even remember where I found this. Take a look. Streetcars from 1943. Look. AB, Alberta. BT, Bridge Transfer. BW, Broadway. Even back in the 1940s and before then, they were using 2 letters to identify their streetcars, trolley buses, and regular bus lines. So, the NS line nowadays is known as the North-South line. MP line up here, which is what I'm calling it, I'm not sure if that's what they are going to call it, is the Montgomery Park line. It would basically travel on Northrop and Lovejoy streets and would somehow likely loop here at 10th Avenue and come up 18th and 19th. You can check out the streetcar route on I'll hopefully remember to provide a link in the description that takes you could go down a whole rabbit hole with streetcar planning. It's called the MP2H, Montgomery Park to Hollywood Transit Project. So yeah, the Hollywood District line would... not really sure how they're I don't know if it's going to be one line or what, but it would go over the Broadway Bridge and it would just continue down here. At 24th Avenue, Weidler's, I think it's 24th, Weidler turns and becomes 24th Avenue, and then you can take a right from there onto Broadway, and Broadway becomes a two-way street. That's important because then after that point, the Broadway, it would basically be the Broadway streetcars going all the way down to the Hollywood Town Center. Those are lines currently being planned. However, additional things may happen. Firstly, I'm going to talk about lines that I've come up with. Number one is actually not a line I came up with. It's a line that Portlanders came up with over 100 years ago, and that is the CC line. What is CC? Wonder if there's a notable park in Portland that has the letter CC in it. Council Crest Park. What's so special about Council Crest Park? Well, if you're caught up on your Portland history, you already know where I'm going with this. But if you don't, let me introduce you to it. Back in the early days of Portland, people, lots of people, would take streetcars on Vista Avenue. Yes, the same Vista Avenue that carries the Vista Bridge, the former very morbid bridge that we're not going to get into any info on, but it would come down Vista Avenue and continue through this whole Heights area. I believe this is past the Ainsworth School, down Vista Avenue, basically working their way down to Council Crest Park. And once arriving at Council Crest Park, you were able to get the best views of Portland. It's one of the highest points of Portland. It is not the highest. A lot of people say it's the highest. It is not. However, the only areas that are higher are in the middle of streets with neighborhood houses. This is the highest viewpoint, however, where you can see Portland. The Council Crest streetcars, and I don't remember where exactly I read this, so take it with a little grain of salt. Take it with a big grain of salt. Or, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. But the Council Crest streetcar line was the most scenic streetcar route on the West Coast, or possibly in the United States, or in the North America, or something like that. It was the most scenic streetcar route for that. And I believe it, because I've taken Street View up through here just to see kind of how the route would go. And yeah, I would tend to agree. So, with that being said, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this yet. I'll black out the screen right now, and I'm going to put either a list of turn-by-turn directions of how the streetcar would work. Actually, no, unblack the screen. I'm commanding my automatic self to unblack the screen. How I would do this is I would have the streetcars turning around here, so they would end up on Lovejoy and Northrop Street. They would come down Northrop all the way to 23rd and Marshall, and when they come back, they'd come down Lovejoy. But these streetcars would continue down 23rd Avenue, and so that's where I'm going to start the route. On 23rd Avenue, black the screen, we'll see what we got. So it comes down 23rd Avenue and ends up at the Council Crest Park. If you'd like to, you can pause this video and look at that and use some other device or open another tab or whatever and look on Google Maps and see the route for yourself. Go on Google Street View or something like that, or whatever you want to do. And yeah, just see how you would get there. It would be very long, a very long route. I believe I measured it. I did a Google... a search on Google driving directions on how long it takes to drive from the 23rd and Marshall station to Council Crest in a car, and it said it was 3 miles, like almost on the dot, 3 miles coming down Vista Avenue and all that. So it'd be a pretty long extension, but a very important one. You should also buy some replica streetcars from the company that made Portland's vintage trolleys back in the early 90s that we now only have one of in the Willamette Shore trolley. Yeah. R.I.P. vintage trolley. except for that one car that's not even running on TriMet system anymore. But get more of those. Get Gomako. I checked on their Wikipedia, and they are still in business. They are still manufacturing train car, old streetcars. So just do it. I think it'd be worth it. That's an important line for me, in my opinion. Again, these are all my plans, the direction I would go if I were to expand the streetcar network. Also, what is this? There's a north-south line here and a north-south line here. East-west all the way up here, east-west all the way down here. So if I want to cross the river, yeah, there's not really a ton of options. Well, what did Portland do way back in the day? Every single bridge had tracks across it because trains were crossing the bridge. So I say do the same thing. First line I'll talk about is BU, Burnside. So the BU line would be Burnside Street. This line would start behind the Providence Park somewhere, and it literally takes Burnside the whole way. It would cross the Burnside Bridge, and it takes Burnside the whole way. You could end it in several areas. You could end at, I don't know, somewhere on the east side. But if you're going to build it all, build it all. Because guess what? That really didn't make any sense, did it? But if you're going to build it extreme and go all the way, do it. Because guess what? You could end it as far east as Burnside and 102nd and have it loop around the tracks. And guess what? If you need to continue down Burnside Street, there's the East 102nd Avenue Max station that you could transfer to. So you could build it as far east as Burnside and 102nd. So if I put that black screen up, here's the route. It's very simple. However, going in the other direction, Burnside actually for a short time becomes a one-way. So you would have to figure, you'd have to have trains come down, I believe, 14th Avenue here, and then come down Cooch. And so it would be a couplet here, eastbound streetcars on Burnside, westbound streetcars on Cooch, which is fine. Takes Cooch Street, and then comes around here. What's this? Oh, yeah, there's already existing streetcar stops on MLK and Grand at Burnside, making this even easier to transfer to. And then the rest of it swings back into Burnside, crosses over the bridge, and yeah. So that's the only weird part, is that it becomes a one-way there on the east side for a short time, for about 10 avenues or so. Several of the lines do that. Give me one moment, my battery is dying, a very common theme of this channel. I will be right back. Well, I would say these stupid batteries never hold a charge, but actually it's entirely my fault because I always forget to charge them. Okay, let's talk about the next line. This line runs on Burnside and Sandy Boulevard. BS. Oh, let's call it SB. Now, I've come up with a very interesting route for some of these. Basically, 3rd and 4th Avenues would become more new streetcar routes because it goes kind of right by the City Hall, and I can't even find the City Hall. I feel like I'm stupid all of a sudden. There's no way that's the City Hall. That's the City Hall. There we go. Okay, so where I am on the map is I'm on Jefferson between 3rd and 4th. So 3rd and 4th and Jefferson. 3rd Avenue faces south, 4th Avenue faces north. The tracks would run on both of these streets, and they would come all the way up and through here. You could transfer to Max on these stations here at Yamhill and Morrison streets. And then there would be some tracks that would go down Alder and Washington. I'll talk about those later. Yeah, I actually have more future streetcar line plans than I did Max plans. Okay, then both tracks would end up on Burnside Street, and they would cross the Burnside Bridge, just like the BU streetcar. So 2 streetcar lines would cross the Burnside Bridge. Then At 14th Avenue, the tracks would come down 14th, and then they would take a right onto Sandy Boulevard. Now, again, you have a choice from here of how far out you want to go, but if you want to see the most extreme routes, this route would probably be the longest ever streetcar line, single streetcar line in probably the whole West Coast, because this line would go clear up to here. Wait a minute. Yeah, clear up to here. What avenue number are we? Remember, east of the river, the avenue numbers start at 1st Avenue and go up. We're at 96th Avenue right now. So it would be very long. And right here, you see those buses? Those are buses. This is the Park Row Summer Transit Center. So Sandy and 96th Avenue, you could transfer to buses. And if you cross this bridge, you can transfer to Max Red Line trains at Park Row Summer Transit Center. So yeah, then when it comes all the way back, it's pretty much just the same, comes all the way down Sandy. It's the same issues as before, though, with the fact that Burnside is a one-way starting here, so it would just come back and just swing into Cooch Street, and then comes around here, goes over the Burnside Bridge, and then on the west side of the river, it would take a left onto 3rd Avenue, take 3rd Avenue all the way down to this whole Lonsdale Square, Chapman Square, and the Terry Shrunk, not really sure how this is pronounced actually, and take a left onto Jefferson, and it would end there at Jefferson and 4th. So it would be a loop there, but when at all the terminuses, if they just loop like this, then it's just a single track that would loop. But if they end somewhere and then they come back out, then the tracks would swing together into just one track, and it would pull into the last stop in a single track. If you live in Seattle, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like Seattle's streetcar lines. Okay, so that's the SB lines, Sandy and Burnside. I would, as much as I want to call it Burnside and Sandy, we're not going to call the line BS. I think that would cause some issues. Okay, next line is the MB line. This is the Morrison Bridge. I think you can see MB does not stand for Morrison Bridge. It stands for Morrison Belmont. This starts in the exact same areas. Jefferson and 4th, right by the City Hall. This building here is the City Hall. Okay, comes around here, up 4th Avenue, except it doesn't go real far. It goes, here's the Max on Yamhill and Morrison, Pioneer Place Mall. It would come down Alder Street. They would take a right onto Alder Street, which, guess what? Alder Street crosses the Morrison Bridge. Well, this is kind of confusing. It would continue as Belmont Street. You'd be able to transfer to the current A and B loop streetcars there. And see, this is a one-way, so streetcars coming back would be on Morrison Street, so Morrison and Belmont are one-ways. Belmont for eastbound, Morrison for westbound. But only for a short time. There's a big graveyard up here, and right there it would join back in, and there would be two-way track, both tracks in both directions would be on Belmont Street. And again, you can end this wherever you want. The way I did this is I had this go all the way until I believe 50th, which means I went too far. It was either 50th or 60th. What street is this? 60th. Okay, so I had it take a right onto 60th and then come down a few streets and then have it end just over here in a single track. And that's the Mount Tabor Reservoir, City Reservoir number 6 and number 5, and Mount Tabor Park, which is really big, as you see. I've never actually been there, but I've been kind of near there. Okay, or you could have it go further, just like the old MB route. This is almost exactly how an old streetcar route used to be. Have it come down Yamhill and continue to take Yamhill, but it's just pretty much, you know, just street running traffic. This is 80th Avenue. If you really want to go this far, you could, but I don't know if you'd really want to go this far out. But really, to Mount Tabor Park would be fine. Then when you come back, you'd be on Belmont, depending on how you did this. back the way you came. But then you get to a certain point where the line turns down 25th Avenue and kind of goes up and around there where the graveyard is. And it would stay on Morrison Street. This is where it becomes a one-way again. All the way down to here. And then it just goes right over the Morrison Bridge and ends up as southeast or southwest Washington Street. And then it would take a left right there onto 3rd Avenue, and it would go down this way until you get to the City Hall. That's the MB. That's the only line to cross the Morrison Bridge. Okay, the next bridge down is the Hawthorne Bridge. Okay, the line I had on here was HA, Hawthorne. Very simple. This one was a bit strange, if I remember right. I believe I had it come down... I believe I had a couple of tracks on Madison eastbound or Maine westbound. And I had it end here where the streetcars are on 10th and 11th Avenues. Sorry, I don't know. So it would take the existing streetcar route on 10th and 11th, except between these two buildings there's a little pedestrian walkway. You would have the 11th Avenue track take a left through there and just go through this little pedestrian area, and then it would end up on Southwest Madison Street to go this way. But going back the other way, it would come down Southwest Main and then hook up with the existing streetcar tracks on 10th. I hope that makes sense. So then it takes that Main and Madison streets and ends up on the Hawthorne Bridge, goes over the Hawthorne Bridge, and pretty much just stays on Hawthorne and Madison. Those are also one-way streets, so seriously, they have a lot. Then at 12th Avenue, it looks like it comes down here and joins up to be a two-way starting at 12th Avenue. And it would just take Hawthorne Boulevard all the way down to however far it needs to. You can see this is a large area, not really tons of houses. There are other houses, but not right off Hawthorne Boulevard. Then you get to around here, and it gets kind of weird. It turns into 50th Avenue, and then I believe it splits into Foster Road. The route that I had, I believe, ended here at 50th and Division Street. So there you go. Then on the way back, it just, yeah, it pretty much, you already basically know how it goes on the way back. Now, the other streetcar line that I did was Foster Road in this area. FR, Foster Road. I don't even remember where I started it. I think it was up here on Cesar E. Chavez Boulevard. Somewhere, Maine, maybe around here, Maine. Then it would take a right onto Cesar Chavez, and then a left onto Hawthorne until that point, and it would continue beyond where the Hawthorne line stops. Of course, you could just have it as one line and not build that stretch. Then here it becomes Foster Road and takes Foster Road all the way to as far out as you want. I really don't remember how far out I had it. I think I just showed arrows on my map saying, okay, it just goes off the map. But yeah. You'd probably want it to go to at least 82nd. Possibly to where the Max Green line is, though. Here, where it goes into Woodstock and Foster Road. And then you have the Max station up here for Lent, Southeast Foster Road. You probably want it to go to at least there and maybe turn around here at whatever street this is. Oh, this is actually just the exit ramp. Oh, well then at 97th. Or even here. There's just literally a loop made there.